We're just saying that this is where the incident happened on November 1st, 2006 here at 707 Walden Avenue. And this is the yard that we went through, the side door. And this is what changed my life. It basically happened right here, by this gate. So, and then the first where he was handcuffed at was inside of the house. This is where my life changed. But at the same time, although it changed, I want to take a negative and turn it into a positive. And that is why I have come up with Cariol's Law. Can I take this off?
Yeah.
So that is why I came up with Cariol's Law, which will protect officers who do stand up against police brutality, and it will punish officers who don't stand up against it, and it would also punish anyone who fabricates a story, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I've gone through. And there will also be a registry. You can't go from department to department, like as if you're like,
Right. Oh, I get it.
here I am, such a great officer, and you know that you got this whole rap sheet. I would like to have my pension, because it's not right that I would have to lose it for doing the right thing. And that is why I think Cariol's Law is important, because officers should not lose their livelihood for stopping bad officers.
Good evening, good neighbors. Welcome to another installment of our virtual slow roll. Today is June 29th, 2020. Seamus here. Thank you all for tuning in the present and the future. Joined today for Cariol's Ride by Cariol Holman-Horne. Good evening, Cariol.
Good evening.
All right, thanks for joining with us again, Cariol. And we dedicated this ride to Cariol Holman-Horne, who first started riding with us back in 2017 to share her story. And she's shared many uplifting messages beyond transcending her story over the years with us. And now that the situation that we are in as a nation and as a city, Cariol has come into a big spotlight. And so we're going to take a ride here through her life and times, from her upbringing, first learning how to ride a bike, to the present, and what's led us to that location where we started this video tonight at 707 Walden. So first of all, again, as always, we shout out to our presenting partner, Independent Health, for keeping the wheels rolling, especially since we're unable to ride with everyone in person now. We miss y'all. We've been riding with our squad. We had our Pride Ride yesterday too, our second annual Pride Ride. We're doing things virtually for now, and we're still connecting communities. That is our mission. And now we're connecting folks tonight to the story of Cariol Holman-Horne. Now, Cariol, we have the ride is frozen here on where we started. Yeah, let's set it off. So, Cariol, thanks for spending so much time with us over the past week preparing this and riding over the last couple days. And I hope everybody can see that better than I can. Okay. So, Cariol, take us back to where we started the ride.
Well, we started the ride at 439 Madison Street, which is where I got my first bike. And when I got that bike, my sister and I, we were like really, really happy that we got a new bike. And it was like a really big bike, so our neighbor called it a bus. So it was, we were happy until he called it a bus. Then we weren't so happy, but it still was fun to have a bike of our own.
439 Madison. So for anyone unfamiliar, Madison there are a few streets named after the original founding fathers, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, Jefferson being the most common. I don't know, Mark, are people seeing a better view of the ride yet? Okay, I'm not. So pardon us for our glitches here. So Madison is a north-south one-way street. Goes from just about Genesee to Clinton. And it happens to be the street, the same street, not only where Cariol grew up and got her first bike. There we go. Now I can see it better. We're on to Jefferson now. But also the reason that we're having this ride completely dedicated to Cariol now is that there is this advocacy, as Cariol introduced at the start here, about Cariol's law and for police reform, for protecting officers who intervene in excessive force, and for mandating that and having a registry. And Madison Avenue, so this is not what happened with Cariol 14 years ago, is not an isolated incident. There have been so many, we're seeing more of them now because of the existence of video footage. Now we have video footage just in the past week of Quentin Suttles being beaten up by police on Madison, right there where Cariol grew up. Coincidental, but boy, it just keeps showing how present, how ever present this is, the over-policing of city of Buffalo. You can go just about anywhere in the city and find a story of this, and these are coming more to light now. Slow Roll is one of 64 organizations who signed on as a coalition in support of the passage of Cariol's law and the restoration of Cariol's pension. You are so welcome, Cariol. So now take us here. This is we're off of Madison. We're going to trace the tracks of your childhood. Where are we now?
We're on Jefferson Avenue, and this is where I got my first dog. Of course, he ran in the street and got hit, but he was a white German Shepherd. That right there is where we used to live. House is no longer there, but he ran in the street and got hit, so we lost our first dog, which was called King. That was his name.
And now we turn on to Davis here.
Yep.
And
so of course
we
played on this street.
Yeah, well, I would imagine this would be an easier street to play on than Jefferson. As your dog is an example, it's just an unsafe street. I mean, we've done plenty of advocacy here about safe streets for things like kids playing, dogs playing, and people riding their bikes. And this little side street, Davis, cuts over from Jefferson to Genesee, where we're going to cut out and make a right turn onto Genesee.
Yeah. On these streets that we're going down, you see a lot of vacant lots. They were, when I was younger, of course, they were all houses, but a lot of vacant lots. Of course, this is the east side of Buffalo. Right there, you see a church that was built from what was, something was torn down, but it was rebuilt. So a lot of this, like even, you know, as we were riding, was a lot of bumps and glass in the street. So it's not like, it doesn't exactly look like it did when I was younger, but hopefully, you know, in the future it'll be better.
Well, in this way that you got involved as a young adult, we're going to go, our next turn will be onto Johnson Street, where you moved from Jefferson. I want to just kind of bring back to your youth, and also we want to illuminate here that you were a police officer who patrolled the streets that you lived on and grew up in.
Exactly.
And we explain kind of what that meant to you and how, when you consider what we need in terms of good policing, about the importance of having officers who reside in the communities in which they police.
Yeah, that's very important, because first of all, if you have someone who works and lives in the same neighborhood, you will put more value into it. You will put value into the community, and you will put value into and to the people. Some of the officers that come into these neighborhoods, they don't value people. Well, they value them only when they can make money off of them, and that's from arrest. Because when you think about it, one arrest creates so many jobs in the criminal justice system that, you know, who's going to stop it? You know, you have the police officer, the judges, the lawyers, probation, parole, correction officers, and of course, you know, the ultimate goal, I guess, is to fill the prisons. So a lot of this, even riding through here, it was empty. You know, when I was younger, you had neighbors, and I noticed a lot, Seamus, when we were riding, you know, when you saw people, you were like, hello. That's how it was when we were younger. Actually, you know, we were taught to speak to people when we saw them. Of course, my mother and father are from the South, so it's not like it was anything new, but, you know, as I got older, people seem more distant.
Mm.
It doesn't even seem as neighborly as it used to be. And some of that is from the police. Like, you pretty much just want to mind your business. Now, this is Johnson Street. We moved over here when I was about 11 years old, around 11. And I guess we'll come up to it.
Yeah, we'll stop up where you were. Now, it's interesting to speak to when you say people just kind of mind their business. What was your experience in uniform of those kind of just daily interactions with citizens?
Well, daily reactions were, well, okay, right there, that's where we moved to 306.
Yeah, hold that thought. We're going to stop here. That's right.
Actually, the house is still there. The house is still right there. And we actually moved, as we got older, we moved back to that street, you know, where I moved in the back of 306, that's 306 Johnson. And, you know, it was a lot of kids on this one block right here. And everyone looked out for us. You know, all the moms and dads, we had respect for our elders. My mother, she moved up there. My sister moved next door to 309. So we spent a lot of time on this street. Like I said, it was a lot of families, a lot of children, and the adults made sure you couldn't go down the street and do something and think that you wouldn't get in trouble for it. So you pretty much just was respectful everywhere.
And so we're going to go from here. I know we paused this for a moment, but this is Johnson. That's High Street up on the corner. And there's Cariol.
You see yourself point out where I used to live.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to continue to trace here from the tracks from when you were such a young child that you had your first bike to where you lived as a young adult and where you served as an officer in the Buffalo Police Department. I feel you about those interactions just with people, just among citizens. I feel like when I was a child, there was more of that hello to strangers, and it's changed, and that's why I am I'm even more insistent on continuing to do that. And that's part of what we're about with Slow Roll. Just these in-person interactions, just people just kind of sharing space and getting to know each other better. It might just be a wave on the street in passing. And of course, there are many much more deeper ways to do it. And it's about telling, we've always said from the start, it's about telling the ongoing story of our city through getting to know people where we're riding and having people ride together and have just real conversations with each other that we just don't do anymore, to at least not nearly as much when we're spending so much time in our cars and with our faces in our phones. And so I wanted to get to that, what you had said with how perhaps it's changed that interaction with officers and people on the street. And now you, as an officer, were patrolling the streets that you lived on, and these are your neighborhoods. I guess what I want to kind of get into, what you started getting at here, we're turning left on Fox, and we're going to turn right from there on to Best. We're going past our squad member Sandy's childhood home up here. But so those interactions, can you explain for folks how, I guess twofold, how you went about interacting with people when you were serving in uniform with the Buffalo Police Department, and maybe how the average interaction between an officer and a citizen might have been different?
Well, you treated people the way you wanted to be treated. Well, you know, when I worked on the west side also, there were a lot of Puerto Rican or Spanish people over there. And my father, he lived over there on the west side. So, you know, when I went over there, I treated them just like I treated people on the east side. So it's basically, it has to be in you. You can't just force someone to be a people person or to like to work around people. So you have to be in that job for the right reasons. And my reason for doing it was I wanted to help people, but my original reason for even getting on the police department was because I had two sons that I needed to take care of. So I took the test and I passed it, and I took the job. I used to want to be a nurse when I was younger, but you know, as I got older, and especially having children, you tend to change your career choices. So I loved being a police officer. I loved the people on the street. What I had the most problems with was the administration. It was, and I realize now that they put more emphasis into getting me off the job than to make it a good workplace. You know, it was a hostile work environment, and that was because, you know, things that I was taught: treat people the way you want to be treated. If you see something, say something. So to file a complaint against an officer who did wrong was not something that you were really supposed to do. That was only in theory, you know. So that is where my problem started. Like I told you, Seamus, when my 16-year-old was falsely arrested, and I filed a complaint. So once I filed that complaint, that's when, and that was in 1999, that's when my problems began. And I normally don't tell that part of the story because it's just, the focus is police brutality right now. But it's important because a lot of young people went to jail for stuff they didn't do or for stuff that was really minor, where if you worked in that neighborhood and you had a relationship with that family, you could just take that child to their parents and say, listen, Johnny was out there smoking with, I'm just giving an example, smoking on the corner or whatever, can you take him or keep, have a conversation with him and make sure he doesn't do it again? Because had somebody else gotten him or whatever, he could have gotten locked up. And I'm just saying smoking, it could have been anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, something violent or anything like that, but something minor, mm-hmm. where, you know, they make it seem as if you are stopped for like murder when they do a car stop, you know, by pulling you out of the car, and once they pull you out, You know, they want to say, oh, I smell weed. First of all, a lot of people smoke weed. So that does not mean that they're smoking in the car because they smell weed. Um, but they'll say, I smell weed, step out of the car. Well, unless you saw something, why would you want me to get out of the car? If you say, for example, that the person passed a red light. It's
Like
like if
they
they
did
passed
right there.
exactly, you did get that, right?
Yeah.
So if that person got pulled over, like, do they deserve to be beat just because that's what the officer felt like doing that day? You know, if they lived in that neighborhood, they would have a connection. They wouldn't even feel like they can get away with it. But these officers nowadays, they feel like they can get away with it. They don't connect with the community that they work in.
And so that's why one of the elements of Cariol's law is the duty to intervene.
Exactly. And someone mentioned that it should extend to citizens stopping a police officer, because in the George Floyd case, we saw citizens saying, you know, he can't breathe, check his pulse, you know, different things like that. But no one made an attempt to stop the officers because they knew that if they did, they could either end up like George Floyd or in jail.
So we're crossing over. This has been MLK Park on the left, and we're on Best Street. And now we are turning left onto Genesee, where we're going to head to where, Cariol, you lived as a teenager. That's East Parade on the left. Shout out to Gina Davis and the Just Breathe Block Club. That's their sign. Where we've always had our Juneteenth ride from there. So heading east on Genesee, we're on the Juneteenth parade route. That's why you see the Pan-African flag there. I think what part of our intention here, Cariol, is, so we're going to bookend this here with what you explain about what Cariol's law is, and people can go to cariolslaw.com and learn more. They can sign. There are petitions there, 2 petitions for the law as well as the restoration of your pension. And I think there was just an amazing little story that happened to us just on this ride, a story that was brought to light on this ride that was not planned. But the gentleman who approached us as we were at the end of the ride at Neal Mack's house on Walden.
And that's it right there. That right there is the club, etc., the one he was talking about.
Oh, that's right.
This
Right
building
there.
Right here.
Yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
share that story?
Well, I mean, I didn't remember it, but he said that he had got into a fight with a guy up there at the bar, and that he was sitting in the police car, and he might have explained it a little more to you, Seamus, I'm not sure, but that he was sitting in the police car with his legs out, and I pretty much told him to calm down, because if I had to close the door, that I was taking him to jail. And so, to make it brief, but I don't know exactly what he said to you.
Yeah, it was just interesting to say. So what he said was he had gotten into a fight with a guy, and you were called to respond. And first of all, he came up and said, "Is that Officer Horne?" And so many people have been recognizing you on these rides, when just shouting out from cars and porches, and it's been nice to see. He came up to us and said, "Oh my goodness, Cariol Horne, you know that I got your back now, but you were there for me before, that you responded to a call that I was in trouble, that I was causing trouble." And he said that you had broken up the fight, and you had him, and you had him sit down with his legs out in the back of the car, but sitting down. And that he said that you didn't close the door, you had his legs out, you're trying to get him to calm down. You were de-escalating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that when he wouldn't calm down, you said that if you had to close the door and put him in the car, then that he was going to jail, and that made him think, okay, I don't want that to happen. I will calm down. And the situation de-escalated, and he did not go to jail that night. And he said that he reflects on it a lot, and he has, over the course of the past, however long it's been now, it must have been at least 14 years, that he is so grateful to you, to that moment that you de-escalated the situation. And unfortunately,
I don't remember it though.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was just was that just a common thing for you?
I mean, I have had several people come up to me and tell me different situations that I don't remember, but they all, like the one girl said, "You locked me up, but at least you were fair." So I was like, okay, as long as I was fair.
Well, obviously it's a stressful job, right? And any given day, these kind of situations you get called into. What kept you motivated to be not only a police officer, but what we talk about tonight, one of the good apples?
My children, my mother. My mother always kept me grounded. You know, she always kept me grounded. So, I mean, I guess family. Family and friends.
And it's been now 14 years since you were fired?
Yeah. See, when I say family and friends, people always, well, no. When I say people, I mean like being a police officer. Um, some people come in, they know that their family or friends are not the best people in the world for whatever reasons, but they pretend as if they are better than everyone else, and that was like a mentality on the police department that I did not like, because nobody's perfect. Nobody. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But to always look at somebody's flaws rather than to help them, some people just want to look down on, and sometimes it's from what they have within themselves that they want to pretend like they are better than someone else. But this, what we're coming up to, is Bissell Street. See Bissell, and this is where we were living as a teenager. I became a teenage mom. More, and there I am with the little bike. And so we moved here, and there was a lot of space. And this is when I went to Buff State. I started at Buff State, and I had my college roommate come and stay with me during Thanksgiving vacation, so that she didn't have to go back to New York City.
And it was soon after that point that you
Are you frozen?
Took the civil service exam? I can hear you. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So where we were leading up to it, it was about this time that you took the civil service exam.
Are you?
Well, I'm not sure what everyone's seeing it at home. We
Yeah,
might be
I took
losing
the civil
you,
service exam.
There we go.
Who's out? I think. You're losing me? Are you losing me?
Okay, why don't we ask Cariol
to reconnect? Are you able to hear me?
Oh, there, now you're here. Okay.
A little bit? No, I'm good.
Oh, everyone watching, thanks for your
I'm
patience. Yes, you
good.
sound great. You sound great.
Okay.
So yeah, now I
Now
want
you
to,
were saying something about.
yeah, when just kind of lead us into again, this is around this time you took the civil service exam, and what was that point from where you were here and a young mother to where you take us to the point where you became a police officer?
Okay, so here I was around 15 years old when we moved here, and then I mean I didn't get canvassed for the police department until I was 19. So we spent a few years here, and then of course I got on my own when I was 18, and took odd jobs, and then when I turned 19, I was canvassed for the police department. I took the test, and I started the police department when I was 20 years old in March 1st, 1988. Well, actually, February 29th, 1988.
And you were 20, 21?
Yeah, I was 20.
It seems so young to me to be a police officer, but I guess that is still, there are
It was.
still, yeah.
I was in the academy. So, I mean, I was 21 when I became a police officer, but I was 20 when I started the academy.
Did you feel then that you had enough and good enough training?
No, you don't have good enough training, but, you're young. First of all, I was 20. I was still trying to figure myself out at that age. So I don't think that a 20-year-old, I mean, they can do the job, but as far as life experience, you don't have that. So for me, I was very naive, really naive. Um, but then, I grew up on the job,
Yeah.
or became mature on the job. So it was a lot of things that I expected, that wasn't there. The professionalism, um, it was like being in high school, like having high schoolers patrol the streets. So in that way, it was kind of fun. It was fun. It was funny. You had some sad times, um, bad times, some good times. When I worked at Precinct 10, I think that was my most favorite time on the department. Um, I worked with some good guys. And when I say good guys, I don't. It depends on who you ask whether somebody's a good cop or a bad cop. Whether you ask the community or whether you ask the police department. The police department wants numbers. They want traffic tickets, traffic stops, arrests, things like that. That's what production is. But for me, I don't feel like that makes a great officer just because they do traffic stops or make arrests. I think a great officer is someone who can relate to the community, someone who's out there to make it a better community, not to make stats, But if I was in the justice system, I think they were probably different from what I'm saying. Because if they had no arrests coming through, they wouldn't have jobs.
Well, and this is why when it comes to how are we going to overcome the policing problem we have in America, Cariol's law is important. It's one part of a large structural change, the systemic change that needs to happen, right?
Right. Right. And it makes no sense that the police budget is over $100 million. I think it's like $150 million, but I always just say over $100 million. And The community budget is only $4 million. $4 million for all of the community centers makes no sense at all. That is such a discrepancy. There's a community center coming up on the left. I don't know if you'll see it, but
Yes, we're coming up on Moselle now, so we've crossed over Genesee again, and we're headed.
right. Yeah, that's like the Buffalo Urban. It was the Crucial Center, but it's on the left. But either way it goes, it's a community center. All the community centers in Buffalo, $4 million, and police department over $100 million. Like, I mean, that makes no sense at all. Look at all of these empty lots. You know, the children that we saw. If they had a community center, money was funded through a community center, all of these communities could look a little better than what they do. This is Box Street.
Box Street, we just turned left on, headed towards Fillmore, and yeah, that's this conversation. So it transcends Cariol's law. You know, we're here, we're signed on to that coalition. We're going to continue to work for this, for the restorative justice that needs to happen for you, and to prevent situations like yours from happening again. We know that there's much more to this, and so we're seeing other cities now who are taking measures to reallocate funding, and we haven't seen that yet here in the city of Buffalo. And one of the other issues here where funds could certainly be used is the conditions of our streets. So we just turned left from Moselle onto Box, and I took a long look over what we were talking about a couple weeks ago here when we were on Moselle, is that because of unsafe sidewalks, there was a 7-month-old baby struck by a car.
Exactly.
Because her mother was walking her in the street because of the condition of the sidewalks. So when we have so many things to address as a city, we are going to take issue with 1/3 of our city's operating budget going to the police.
You see how many empty lots there are? There were houses there. Those houses could have been renovated. But rather than renovate them, the city tore them down.
You know, we've seen this so much. You know, with Slow Roll, we cover the whole city. And when we say that we want to share the story wherever we are, it's where we've become more informed by simply asking people where they are. Like, what's going on here? You know, whatever it is, what do you want to talk about? What would you like to share with a group of people who are here and here to connect? And of course, sometimes it's great things that people want to share, but it's not always great. And we know that the state of our city, being one of the poorest cities in America, being one of the most segregated cities in America, these things aren't accidental. Not
at all.
And this Box Street here is an example of there's so much space on the left. And we're going to turn right onto Kerr, and then we'll turn left onto Glenwood, or was it Woodlawn?
It is Woodlawn.
It's Woodlawn, and it was really interesting to see on Woodlawn where there was a long stretch of completely vacant, and then a long stretch of newer, nice-looking homes. There are so many great homes in the city. We have one, I think if it's not the oldest, maybe after Detroit, the second oldest housing stock in the United States. But there's just so much lack of investment here. And it's not just lack of investment in sidewalks, it's lack of investment in people. And when we see the inequities in our communities in here, of course, there we saw the police going by, we don't know what for. But it's just systemic. You got to see this from the inside, but then you had to, I imagine, at sometimes you were enforcing things that personally you were conflicted about, right?
You said what, Seamus? That I enforced things that I was conflicted about?
When you were, well, it would have been your job as a police officer, and we talk about marijuana legalization, right?
Right.
While you were on the force, that this is a being something that's being used to further oppress people.
Exactly. And that's really like what's being used now. C District is horrible for it. The officers there pulling people over, saying they smell marijuana. Even in Quentin Suttle's video, you see he's like, "Oh, you just got a little weed on you," as if he's just having a casual conversation. But then, as he's groping him, he basically what we didn't know was he like took his finger and put it near Quentin's anus. And when he flinched, then he acted like he was trying to, like, fight him when he knew why he was flinching. But for the video and for the audio, he wants to act like Quentin Suttles just decided to swallow some drugs and he's trying to stop him from swallowing drugs that he doesn't have. So all of these, they come into these neighborhoods, they feel like because it looks like this, that we don't care about each other. We do care about each other, but at the same time, it's like our kids are, some of them drive without licenses because they don't have the money to pay for the tickets that the police have given them. So it's just like so much to even just think about it is depressing. But, just to know that these kids, because they know how to drive, they want to drive, but they don't have the money to pay for these tickets that these officers have gave them. And they know that. So when they see him, like I told you, this was the second time in 6 months that these same officers beat on Quentin Suttles. So they know what they're doing. And Quentin Suttles is not the first person that has said that the officers have touched them on their private parts or on their anus. So we have a really big problem.
Indeed. So we're pulling up onto C District here. Woodlawn approaching Fillmore. And I took a good look, if I may, just for a momentary diversion here. That flower shop has been getting a lot of love recently, the Anderson's Flower Shop there, right? We just turned, there it is. A lot of folks asking, I want to support black-owned businesses. There's one. So as we pull up here, would you like to reflect a bit on your time when this was your headquarters?
Yeah, so when we make the right, this will be C District. We just wrote from the back way that's the sign Black Lives Matter. So up here is C District, and this is the district that I worked in when I was fired. And this is the district where the officers that beat Quentin Suttles came from. This is the district where the police planted weed in the car that my 15-year-old was in. As you can see, well, I don't know if you can very well, but it says that it's closed. And there's a chain on the door. Why it's closed to the public, I don't know, because there is a glass, and the glass separates the inside of the precinct from the hallway. So even before COVID, you can't get behind that glass. There's a door, so you cannot get behind that. So if you need a report and everything, the person is already protected with the glass and the door. So why it's closed, I have no clue. But it is.
And so I want to also make sure we're informing folks that you have, while we're at this district where you were stationed, you are going to have a press conference tomorrow morning at the downtown
Yes, I am.
headquarters.
Yeah, that's where I will be making the official announcement for Cariol's Law. So we'll be down at police headquarters. So
And
anyone that can make it at 9:30, please be there.
9:30 press conference tomorrow morning, downtown police
A.M.
headquarters.
Yes.
Yes, a.m.
Yes.
And well, how, asking you a bit to reflect. We've been reflecting from that time that, from your upbringing all the way to Madison Street. How are you reflecting now on this? Has been a struggle for you for 14 years since you intervened in the excessive force on Neal Mack and lost your job for it. How are you reflecting now in the past month about all the attention that you're getting now?
Well, I just hope that there is change with the Cariol's Law. I hope each state will adopt it. It should be a federal law. I just hope that everything that I have gone through is not in vain, that another officer does not have to go through what I have gone through for protecting a citizen that was handcuffed and being choked. So, Neal Mack still lives. George Floyd doesn't. Eric Garner doesn't. And there were other officers there who did nothing. And I understand why they did nothing, but it doesn't make it right. So, I think that Cariol's Law would help those officers who do want to stand up against it, that they will do something about it.
Well, it's certainly laid out reasonably. The 6 points of Cariol's Law that anyone can go to cariolslaw.com and read. And again, there are 2 petitions for the passage of Cariol's Law, and again for the restoration of your pension. And can we inform folks a little more about what that side of this, why there are 2 separate petitions, and what the issue is with your pension?
Well, the issue with my pension is that I was fired for stopping the police brutality. Of course, they fabricated their story to make it fit their scenario. But the fact is, Greg was choking Neal Mack. I stopped him, and I was fired. Greg went on to choke another on-duty officer. Another person who was an on-duty officer. He also went on to get promoted, where he was a supervisor over 2 officers, and they pulled over 4 young men who were out shooting a BB gun. So one of those officers, either Greg or the other 2 officers, took that BB gun and shot the boys with the BB gun. And of course, he admitted to abusing them, using unnecessary, unreasonable force, unlawful, unreasonable, unnecessary force against those boys, was federally charged and went to jail. So why? Well, it wasn't even the fact that they didn't believe me. I sincerely believe that they did believe me. But why they wanted to get rid of me, that's a whole backstory.
I think it's worth repeating for this that you intervened in the choking of an unarmed, handcuffed man, Neal Mack. Neal Mack survived. You lost your job. The officer who was committing that excessive force went on to be promoted, and then later, after more incidents of excessive force, actually was sent to jail for it.
Exactly.
He continued these practices that could have been stopped had they listened to you in
Exactly.
2006. And
And he
so,
got his pension.
and he's got his pension. Even, wait,
Exactly.
so again here, he's got his pension even after serving time.
Exactly.
And you were fired a few months short of your full pension, and it's been completely taken away. And so these are facts. These aren't these are things you can look up. And
Exactly.
so once presented with these facts, keeping the system as we know it ought to be unacceptable for any reasonable mind. I just want to emphasize that though there is, we got your back here at Cariol. Again, we're one of 64 organizations in Buffalo who signed on to this. We are supporting Cariol's law. It is one of, I believe, 13 points by the Free the People Coalition, who have been meeting with Mayor Brown.
Right, but I have nothing to do with that organization.
Right.
They have not come to me about anything concerning Cariol's law. They are using points from Cariol's law, but I've been told that the mayor says that he's not going to call it Cariol's law. So I don't think that they should be bringing up Cariol's law when they know that they're not representing me. If I am there speaking on my own behalf, that's one thing. But for an organization that I have no ties with at all to be speaking about Cariol's law, I mean, I don't care if they advocate for me, but I can speak for myself also. So they've been meeting with the mayor, and I have no problems with that. But some things are just not right. And matter of fact, let's just speak about that, because you have some organizations who are great. We know that. And then you have some organizations who want things for themselves. That's fine. But I don't want them to use my pain, my suffering, to come up with something to move their agenda further along. Because Cariol's law is going to help other officers, and that's why I thought of it. It's going to help citizens because they won't be beat when other officers are there, because nobody can let it happen. But as far as that organization meeting with the AG, if they're meeting with the AG about my pension, why am I not at the table?
Fair enough. What's the old saying? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So,
yeah, and I don't want to be what's for dinner.
So you have this press conference tomorrow morning. You have certainly been advocating for yourself and feeling more support behind you now in the past month. Has anyone representing the city of Buffalo or the state of New York contacted you in the past month?
No, I haven't spoken to anyone. As far as the council is concerned, I know they brought it up about the I don't know if they brought up Cariol's law specifically. I believe they did, but I would have to check, because some organizations are just bringing up the points of Cariol's law without calling it Cariol's law.
Mm-hmm. So yes, the council has asked the state attorney general to reopen this case. Um,
Right, but I haven't spoken to anyone or to the AG. I've heard that that group met with the AG, but like I said, they weren't meeting on my behalf because I was not there.
well, and this is what we're kind of getting at when the reason we wanted to do this uh, is and have this Cariol's ride is to show your history here as a Buffalonian, as a human, and
Mhm.
you're at a place now where an image is made of you, that the viral images that are now flying around, advocating for Cariol's law as part of this overall sweeping change coming to our country. We hope. We certainly people better. Uh, People have taken to the streets for these changes. And I just want to make sure, because part of what Slow Roll is about is just connecting people as humans. And so but while I appreciate you taking so much time with this past week, because I just wanted to make sure that anybody can, who's now knows your name and knows a little bit of your story, maybe goes to cariolslaw.com and learns a little bit. We just want to peel this back and just remember that behind behind your story is just a human, and we have to make sure that we carry that empathy that we're asking of police officers. Make sure we're asking that of ourselves too, and just understanding that you are not just a symbol here. You are a beating heart, and I'm glad that you have more attention in this moment, Cariol. But I know that that there's a lot more work to be done, right?
There is. There's a lot more work to be done, but it can be done.
How
And
do you
part of,
feel? Pardon me. Go ahead.
I was about to say, the first training that we get is home training. We don't know what people are learning at home, but hopefully life lessons can make a person see um, or empathize with other people. You don't have to be going through that same situation that the people are going through, but if you can empathize with that person, like for instance, if your mother dies, you know how you feel. You can say, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss." Um, you can empathize with that person. That doesn't mean that your mother passed away, but then if yours did, then you can really relate because then you understand if you have that relationship with your mom. Um, and so it's the same with acquitting settles. You don't have to be beat by the police. Um, some people, they always say, well, what did that person do? Why? That person had to do something. They don't, some people just will not believe that there are some officers who just come into our neighborhoods and beat on people. They don't want to believe that. They want to believe that a person had to do something. And then if that person didn't do anything, then they want to bring up their criminal background. And then a criminal background does not or is not there on a car stop. You know what I mean? Like if somebody got busted for weed in the past, and now the cop pulls them over and they smell weed, then they can say, "Oh, well, see, he shouldn't smoke weed." Well, the point is, some people smoke weed to chill out because that's their way of coping. I can't tell people how to cope. Some people drink, some people smoke, some people have other vices. Me, I like to think. I like to protest. I like to put my feelings into solutions. That's what I like to do. But someone is always there to try to say, "Wow, this, say this about me or that about me." I don't care what people say about me. The point is, I am here. I am trying to create solutions. Neal Mack still lives. So regardless of what anyone says, I did something. So now what we need people to do is to empathize. Just like you saw us driving past all of those empty fields, those were houses at one time. People lived in those houses. Some of those houses needed work. People didn't have money to put into the houses, so they lost it in housing court, or they lost it because they lost it because they are poor. And then other people say, well, you shouldn't own a house if you can't take care of it. Well, you never know somebody's situation. So rather than always judging, try to create solutions. That's what people need to learn from this, is to create solutions.
We are out here working for it, and we're grateful to you for that, and grateful for your time, Cariol, and for your friendship. We unfortunately, the ride that we went from here, from the C District station back to 707 Walden, where Neal Mack, where you met Neal Mack and maybe saved his life. Unfortunately, we've lost that footage somehow, and so we're not able to show the rest of the ride, and I apologize for that. So what I would like to do is we'll go straight back to where we started by showing that video that our producer Mark made of you at the house earlier today, where you talked about Cariol's Law, and we can leave it there, and we're going to have some music. You know, we're going to go show an old show from One World Tribe from Larkin Square. They'll play after this, like every slow roll. We have after the ride, we have some music. You've been a performer at our after parties many times.
With Ishmael.
Yeah, I was looking. I couldn't find a full set of music from Ishmael. We've been playing his music here since his passing last year. We carry Ishmael with us. And so, yes, so for some slow rollers who maybe don't recognize Cariol from being on the bullhorn, maybe they'll recognize her from playing drums at our after parties. So we'll have some music tonight, and we went with One World Tribe, kind of with that vibe in mind, and some healing sounds, but also some, you know, reggae being some protest music too. So we chose that for you, and we just, when it gets back to it for us, what we're about is just connecting communities by bike. And sometimes it's happy, look at this beautiful thing that we have now, or look at this historic neighborhood. But sometimes we have to have some uncomfortable conversations about the state of our city. And we knew when you first took the bullhorn 3 years ago, and it made people uncomfortable, and they said, please don't get political. And you know, like that's just a privilege that we're going to refuse. It's not if people are free to ride their bike, you don't want to think about it. I can't get entirely in your head, but I know that if we're going to bring people together and truly move our city forward, it's going to take some uncomfortable conversations. And I'm grateful that you're again receiving much more attention right now for the uncomfortable situation that you found yourself in and have been fighting for 14 years now. And I don't know, I don't want to be so naive to think that it's automatically going to happen here, like we've arrived in this moment. But how do you feel when you look forward, like to not just tomorrow morning, the press conference, but when you have those thoughts and you're thinking about the future, what are you seeing?
I want to create change. You know, like a lot of people with the George Floyd death, which it should not have happened, but it did. With that, and people see how those officers stood around, then they start to understand. Some people start to understand, like, wow, you know, this really happens. Like, yeah, we've been saying it like forever that this is happening in our communities. So now, with that video you saw for yourself, and even though, some people do understand, there's still going to be other ones who, not that they don't understand, they just don't care.
Mm.
And those are the type of people that I do not want around me. I don't want to be associated with. I mean, they need to change, but I can't change someone's heart. Someone else has to work on that first, because I don't have the patience. I need to just work with people who want to create change now. And for those who don't understand, just put yourself in George Floyd's shoes. If you were stopped by the police for a fake $20 bill and it wound up not being fake, or just for a mistake, for something that somebody thought, first of all, if he did have a fake $20 bill, that should not have been a death sentence. But it seems like any time the police are called, it could potentially lead to death. I'm trying to get it out.
Well,
but it should not for something as simple as a traffic stop or for any petty crimes. People are treated as if they are murderers, when the real murderers are the ones in uniform who are killing us. And not all cops are bad. I am not anti-cop. I am just anti-police brutality, or anti-bad cop. So, we know that we have those type of people on the job, and if you are on the over people, then you should not accept it, whether it's your family, friends, or whoever. But anyway, Cariol's Law. Go to cariolslaw.com. 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 Can you hear
Pardon
me
me,
now,
Cariol, my computer almost died. I had to plug it in. Yes, I can. I'm sorry. We are going to keep harping that. Yes,
That's okay.
I'm sorry I missed what you just said, but certainly cariolslaw.com. Keep saying it. We will keep saying it. I will show you. I made a little model to make our point. So there is, before we get to the video and this live music, let me see if I can break it down, see if this makes sense for folks. Okay, so here we have, look at this. We have this beautiful buffalo bowl, okay? And it's full of apples. And there's a bad apple here. There are 4 bad apples and 1 good apple. And so what did you say that you said that maybe there are 20%? How did you break down in your interview? Which did you say? Was it the interview on the Breakfast Club? Which is a big thing to say here, to talk about that you were on the Breakfast Club last week and it's got over 1 million views on YouTube. How did you break that down when you said the percentage of good cops?
Okay, well, let me say, if you say you have 4 bad apples in there and 1 good apple, 1 good apple does not make the rest of the bunch good, but 1 bad apple can make the rest of the bunch bad. Now, if you have 4 bad apples and only 1 good one, you need to get that 1 good one out of there before that one becomes damaged. But so a journalist friend broke it down to me, Chris Stevenson. He says that he heard that 20% of the officers are good, 20% are bad. It's the 60% in between that do or say nothing. But that's really 80%. Like, that's really 80%, because if 20 are bad and 60 are doing and saying nothing, then 80% will be bad. So Cariol's Law will protect that 60% so that they can speak up.
So if you are representing
CariolLaw.com.
the 20% good who spoke up and got fired for it. Cariol's Law will protect not only you, but these 60% who might also, if they have protection, speak out against the bad apple. And I guess what I'm also saying, the reason I put this in here is that I think what we're saying overall is that the issue is actually, this is one small part of the issue. The system is the issue, the bigger issue, and we have to change this.
Exactly.
So that the good apples in it are properly trained and rewarded. It's a lot, but I happen to have 5 apples, so I wanted to show that in that model. Carrie, I appreciate your time. I will see you again tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Seamus.
Tomorrow morning, 9:30, downtown police headquarters for a press conference for Cariol's Law. If anyone is watching this, thank you to everyone who's paying attention here in the present and the future. Hopefully people will be watching this sometime in the future and say, oh, Cariol's Law, that's like common knowledge now. But there's Cariol herself.
I hope so.
But for now, we've got a lot of work to do. So go to cariolslaw.com and Cariol will explain this. Mark will show this video that we started with tonight about the points of Cariol's Law, and that we made this video at 707 Walden in front of the home of Neal Mack, where she was called to respond and maybe saved his life by intervening in excessive force. For those who've been watching this from the start, I hope you'll forgive how repetitive we are here. But if you think this is a little repetitive, imagine Cariol has been living and telling this story for 14 years without justice. And I hope that this compels people to get more involved. There's 2 easy petitions at cariolslaw.com for the passage of the law and the restoration of her pension. We were honored to sign onto the coalition of organizations, 64 local organizations supporting this. And this work will continue. And hopefully our bike rides together will continue too, Cariol.
They will.
Good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll keep in touch. We'll see you in the morning. And we'll follow this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cariol. We'll follow this with One World Tribe at Larkin. We'll end Slow Roll with some music and fellowship and some healing sounds. And we thank everyone else again for tuning in. And thank Independent Health, our presenting partner since 2015, for keeping the wheels rolling, especially now when we can't have these big gatherings together. Thank you all for tuning in online. Stay well. Keep in touch. Peace.
What was you saying that this is where the incident happened on November 1st, 2006 here at 707 Walden Avenue. And this is the yard that we went through, the side door. And this is what changed my life. It basically happened right here, by this gate, So, and then the first where he was handcuffed at was inside of the house. This is where my life changed. But at the same time, although it changed, I want to take a negative and turn it into a positive. And that is why I have come up with Cariol's Law. Can I take this off?
Yeah.
So that is why I came up with Cariol's Law, which will protect officers who do stand up against police brutality, and it will punish officers who don't stand up against it, and it would also punish anyone who fabricates a story, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I've gone through. And there will also be a registry. You can't go from department to department, you know, like as if you're like,
Right. Oh, I get it.
here I am, such a great officer, and you know that you got this whole rap sheet. I would like to have my pension, because it's not right that I would have to lose it for doing the right thing. And that is why I think Cariol's Law is important, because officers should not lose their livelihood for stopping bad officers.
are one world tribe. And you are one world tribe. And that is the human family. Can you dig it? International ambition. International war. They want to perpetuate international brutality. World trouble. World hustle. World trouble. Why world hustle? World problem. Hear this. People far away say the bomb them drop like rain. Fire shower come down like plague and let bullets wawa. Soldier pulling and people running, no care who been hit. People running tired running from them bull. Them are the wicked with big plan of domination. Domination eliminates indigenous culture. Indigenous culture on the level of endangered species. World trouble. World hustle. World problem. World struggle. World hustle. It's a world problem. International organization. Mobilization. Revolution. Yeah. International organization. National mobilization. National revolution. Wayole, yebe sumalesa. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, yebe sumalesa. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole, badesile. Wayole. Ebe sumalesa. Wayole, wayole, wayole. Badesile. Wayole, ebe sumalesa. Wayole. Retaliation, mobilization, revolution. Yeah, international,
Organization,
international people,
mobilization,
international, national,
revolution.
national. Yeah, yeah, yeah. World trouble, world hustle,
From the A to the way,
world power,
from the A to the way,
world problem,
from the A to the way,
world trouble.
from the A to the way,
It's a world struggle.
from the A to the
International,
way. Organization, mobilization, revolution,
yeah, international,
organization,
international people,
mobilization,
international.
revolution.
Wow. We're playing songs from our Unity and Diversity album and the Armed and Dangerous album. It is good to see you.
I'm real today.
Some of you have been with us, how many 10 years? How many known 10 years? 15 years? 20 years? Yes. And you are the reason. Bless. Rusty. Who gets the money? Where the money yells? That's a song from our Unity and Diversity album. I'm gonna try to remember the lyrics. We appreciate you being out here. Put your hands up for Larkin Square, bringing music to the people. Brother Seamus and the crew. Empress was in the house. Sly Boots, put your hands together. Happy birthday, Curtis Hayes. Bless. Ready?
Who gets the money?
I've been thinking about how money flows, where it comes from, and where it goes. Tell me,
Who gets the money?
met a man working overtime. Layoffs coming, who next in line? Call the lawyers, 'cause money's tight. Party's over, having family fights. Pay the lawyers, now he's out of sight. Tell me,
Who gets the money?
lawyers thinking about love and hate. Broken hearted, but the money's great. Stop to feel it, got to get away. Cruising to Montego Bay. Come on over to my holiday. Tell me,
Who gets the money?
who
Gets the money?
underneath your nose. Money comes, and there it goes. Are you thinking how your money flows? Tell me,
Who gets the money?
where the money is?
Now, if you need a real answer to that, send me a check.
And that's why you know.
There is a beat that can shake it. I beat the blues, no fake book can fake it. My is a beat that can get it, and that's all. They say the world is changing. I say the world isn't changing at all. No, there's nothing new under the sun. It's already come. And that's why we play reggae music. And that's why we love reggae rhythm. Talk of revolution, you know that could be the only solution. Let the revolution of love bring man together as one. Black, red, white, and yellow man, we've got to say yes we can. We can feel the happy feeling of our children dancing in the sun. And that's why we play reggae music. And that's why we love reggae rhythm. Oh. And that's why we play reggae music. And that's why we love reggae rhythm. Revolution, I believe that could be the only solution. Let the revolution of love bring man together as one. White, red, black, and yellow man, we've got to say yes we can. We can feel the feeling of our children dancing in the sun. Yeah, that's why we play reggae music. And that's why we love reggae rhythm. And that's why we play
How you feeling? How you really feeling? Mr. Rusty Jackson on guitar. Frank Taylor Bob Singer on keys. Do you have a plan? And do you understand the seriousness of it all for when the beast come tonight? Do you have a plan? Worldwide Babylon, them have a mission. Let go of the beast on the streets while we children dwell. All people community while sit on the wall watching them watch me suffer. What the original suffer, hey? We know confusion is the enemy. Revolution come quickly in community. But as long as the nation continue to fight, this generation will never unite. Till I trade. Do you have a plan? Yeah. Do you understand the seriousness of the time I work at? When the beast comes, till I trade to stand. Do you have a plan, my people? Do you understand the seriousness of the time I wonder? When the beast comes, till I dread, will you stand? Will you rise? Will you fight again? Oh, Revolution come soon. Carry out your mission, let them bobby come forward. Uplift the women, protect them children while you're training them in the bush. Teach them to respect creation and humanity, and self-defend against the Babylon insanity. I don't believe a damn thing that they tell me. Poison in the food, let them sell away. Television and radio, them only want violence. None of them movies screen them abominable science. So as long as them people continue to fight, this generation will never unite. Till I dread, do you have a plan? Yeah. Do you understand the seriousness? And it's all I wonder when the beast comes alive. Will you stand? Do you have a plan, my people? Do you understand the seriousness? And it's all I wonder when the beast comes alive. Will you stand? And it's all I wonder when the beast comes and I drink. Will you stand? Do you have a plan, my brother? Do you understand the seriousness? And it's all I wonder when the beast comes and I drink. Will you stand? Will you rise? Will you fight again? Music is the weapon of choice. Do you know Marcus? Do you know Marcus Messiah? You know Marcus Messiah Garvey? One love, one destiny. And demand respect of the world of free Africa. Africa. We have decided because of our strength and faith in Jah that we can teach the world the truth. Do unto others as they do unto you. We are descendants of suffering people who have decided to suffer no more. We shall rally up the millions, place the flag of freedom, nation to nation, shore to shore. Africa. Tell them about it. Teach them. That's Marcus Garvey. Teach them children about Africa. One love, one destiny. You tell them Ethiopia is the land of our father. You tell them Ethiopia is the land of our father. Place where I love to be. 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 Just as the winds gather suddenly, Rasta children will come rushing to the air. Africa. Let Africa be free. Let Africa be free. Let Africa be free. Yeah. Let Africa be free. Let Africa be free. Africa be free. Yeah. On there. Marcus. One love, one destiny. Hear this. Face what you love to be. 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 There's some bass. We can bass them. What I love to be, place what I love to be. Marcus. Yeah. We've got some CDs, about 20-something years worth of it. And I'm sure you can get it online too, but we thank you, Buffalo, for your support over all these years. This is home. A lot of Buffalo musicians made this band survive. Now Cleveland's in effect. We getting nationwide now. So support local, regional, national music everywhere, all the time, because it's for the people. Can you dig it?
You all remember Malcolm X, Elijah Malik, Shabazz, wow. سخي المختلية سيدي مبارك Alifatou 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 سخي المختلية سيدي مبارك يعني فجلما دينجي نبلوان Alifatou سخي المختلية سيدي مبارك يعني فجلما دينجي نبلوان Alifatou سخي المختلية سيدي مبارك يعني مجرى يا إمام يوم Alifatou سخي المختلية سيدي مبارك يعني فجلما دينجي نبلوان Malcolm X yow yaa ñuy fajal diine ji ñëpp la war waaw 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 ci waaw ci waaw ci waaw waaw ci waaw ci waaw ci waaw waaw ci waaw ci waaw kooku la ñuy woyee El Hadji Malick Sabas Malick Malcolm X Malcolm ci waaw El Hadji waaw doucement kana yow El Hadji ci waaw no mami waaw ci waaw ci waaw ci waaw no waaw ci waaw ci waaw ci waaw no Halifatu seexil mal waxti yaa si dimbal yaa ñuy fajal ma dina ci ñëpp la war Halifatu yow seexil wal moxtaar yaa si dimbal waaw nga ne yow ci waaw waaw yow
Baba Mbaye. No justice! See, I grew up in church, so all I knew was gospel music and AM radio, for real. And AM radio, as you know, played everything. Always wanted to be a musician, you know, grew up with a piano. The first band I ever got in, outside, what they call secular music, this guy right here. If it weren't for this guy, right? Mr. Kenny Hollis. Funky Stroke, good to have him. No justice! Justice. No peace. No justice. No justice for the people. Oh, no justice. No justice. No peace. For the people. Justice for the people. No peace for the wicked. They think the revolution died. We need my Black Panther died. Get conscious. You got to wake up your mind right now. Hey, they'll jail a freedom fighter, execute them, make them martyrs. Time for conscious thinking right now. Oh, and we say you might call me foolish for saying what I and I say, but I know it's true. You do too. Oh, they chatty. Low down pressing, and you know they'll follow through on me and you. The judge and soldier say it loud. Revolution was born in vain. For they heard the cries of justice, and the conscience mind has changed forever, singing revolution was born. No, it was not in vain. When injustice is on the rise, you'll hear it in the people's crying out. No justice, no peace in Babylon. No justice for your people. No peace for the wicked. No justice, no peace in Babylon. No justice for the people. No peace for the wicked. Hear this, all of ya wickedness in the night. Jah come to shed the light across the land, everywhere, all the time. No longer can you run, for there is no place left to hide, no place time for conscious thinking. Right now, hey, and we say, oh, God say what I and I say, but I know it's true, cause I see it every day, I read it every day. It's a low down pressing, and you know, they will follow through on me and you. Jah soldiers say it louder. Revolution was born. The wind was acting late, but they heard the cries of justice, and the conscience mind has changed. Yeah. Revolution was born. No, not in vain. When injustice is on the rise, you'll hear it in the people's crying, no justice, no peace, no way out. No justice, no peace in the Babylon. Hold on, wait a minute. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Give me some bass and shaka. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Ain't no justice. justice for the people. No peace for the wicked. Hey, said no justice, no peace. Said no justice, no peace. No justice, I can see no peace. Yeah. So no justice for the people. No peace. Oh, no justice. No justice. I know you hear me, Mr. Babylon, Mr. Babylon. I know you see me, say Mr. Babylon. Yeah. No justice. Yeah, no justice. No peace. There be no peace. No justice for the people. No peace. Think about it.
Thank you, God.
Money don't make it right, but it sure make things easier.
You got that straight.
What the money is.
And it don't make it right, no.
Money don't make it right.
It might make things a little bit easier for you.
Don't make it right.
You can have all the money in the world,
Money don't make it right.
but it don't make it right. Yeah. Privilege, the life of ease, the world of big money.
Aristocracy.
Ooh, yeah.
Aristocracy.
Oh, some of us misuse the power of money sometimes.
Aristocracy. Aristocracy.
Baker's world revolves around the money game. Stakes are high, there are profits to be made. The world of guns and knives is very cruel. Where money is the bottom line, the golden rule saying
Money don't make it right.
and it don't make it right. No,
Money don't make it right.
it might make things a little bit easier for you. You can have all the money in the world,
Money don't make it right.
but it don't make it right. Child is born to a life of poverty, yeah.
A life of poverty.
Living the ghetto life, the only life he knows. Life of poverty, yeah.
Life of poverty.
Street is mean, the hustler's world, it can be hard. Hand is dealt, you place your bets, play your cards. World of guns and knives, very, very cruel, yeah. But money is the bottom line. And my background saying it.
Money don't make it right.
And it don't make it, it don't make it, it don't make
Money
it.
don't make it right.
It might make things a little bit easier for you.
don't make it
You
right.
can have all the money in the world,
Money don't make it right.
but it don't make it right. Baby, the money don't grow on trees. Oh, you gotta learn to appreciate. You get nothing for free. The money hungry people want to rule the world. Have to be the best, money just won't buy. Cause if it's all about money, then I don't wanna be no banker. I'd rather be poor, be a street thinker, not a drinker. That would make me sick. If I was rich, I don't drink and be the drink. That is if you don't have a game plan to handle your money in this corrupted ass land. Cause in the blink of an eye, you'll be like broke. Stock market crash and it ain't no joke. And then you rush into the life of a vagabond. You know the life that the wicked looking down upon. Treating them like they're a subspecies with some rare tropical disease. Take the time and check yourself. Mishandle the money, you can wreck yourself. To the greedy, pass by the needy and lack. Remember money don't make it right.
Money don't make it right.
It don't make it right. No.
Money don't make it right.
It might make things a little bit easier.
Money don't make it right.
You can have all the money in the world.
Money don't make it right.
But it don't make it, it don't make it, it don't make it.
Make it right.
Yeah.
Money don't make it right.
It might make things a little bit easier.
Money don't make it
You
right.
can have all the money in the world.
Money don't make it right.
But it don't make it. And my background saying it.
Money don't make it right.
Yeah. What album is that from, kid? What album is that from? That's from our first album of Unity and Diversity. Respect, sister.
Now,
We are one world tribe. You are one world tribe. And that is the human family. Can you dig it?
somebody's got to dig it.
It's good to see members of the BAO in the house. Buffalo Afrobeat Orchestra will be out here in July. Enough Love, Larkin Square, because they got mad music coming all summer long. And it's all your fault. It's all your fault, Seamus. We are one. Tell me, how many miles must we march for freedom? How many wars will we have to bear before our homeless have a world that feeds them? Before our children have a world that cares? So we are one. Wanna tell them again? We are one.
Before the lonely life in silence, without a gentle place to rest their hearts. How many men will we let go by us, asking for money in the name of God? We are one. Yes, do.
Unity. Unity is harmony. And when we say Babylon, we mean confusion. Unity, a party. Unity for the people. I see my Blue Heron family in the house. Yeah! Baila! Baila! We'd rather dance than duck on the battlefield. We'd rather live in harmony, yeah, than to get licked down with brutality. Yeah, we must be strong like lion. Whoa, 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 the time has been and come, people. Strong like lion. Yeah, 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 the journey will be long. Strong like lion. Whoa, 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 the time has been and come, children. Strong like lion. Yeah, 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 the journey will be long. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, 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 yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. We'd rather dance than duck on the battlefield. We'd rather live in harmony, yeah, than to get licked down with brutality. Yeah, we must be. Whoa, 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 the time has been and come, people. Yeah, 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 the journey will be long. Whoa, 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 the time has been and come, children. Yeah, 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 the journey will be long. Hear this, unity and party. Wisdom is greater than weapons of war. Give me war party. Wisdom is greater than strength. Unity and party. Wisdom is greater than weapons of war. Give me war party. Wisdom is greater than strength. Hear this, unity and party. Unity and party. Unity and party. Babylon make war party. Unity and party. Unity and party. Unity and party. Uno, no, tres, samba. Baila, baila. Chuto Johnny Lodo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh Chuto Johnny Lodo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yeah, oh yeah, yeah yeah yeah, oh yeah, Chuto Johnny Lodo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo, oh Chuto Johnny Lodo, oh yeah, yeah yeah yo. Hit this, unity and party, unity and party, unity and party. Babylon make war party, unity and party, unity and party, unity and party. Babylon make war party, Babylon make war party, Babylon make war party. Unity and party, unity and party, unity and party, unity and party, unity and party. Babylon make war party, unity and party, unity and party, unity and party. Uno, dos, tres, rhythm. Mi mamá no quiero bailar la merengue. A la merengue, a la merengue. Mi mamá no quiero bailar la merengue. Dígame, a la merengue, a la merengue. Mi mamá no quiero bailar la merengue. A la merengue, a la merengue. Mi mamá no quiero bailar la merengue. It is unity of party, 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 party. Are you having a party? Are you having a party? Are you having a party? Worldwide party, 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 worldwide party, worldwide party, worldwide party, worldwide party, nation to nation party, human to human party, Iman to Iman party. We are having a party, unity of party, unity of party, unity of party, unity of party. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's tradition at the end of the night for all of the bands to get together and create some music.
So, oh, you mean during the show? Oh.
But even, let me see, that would be Empress and her crew. Put your hands together for Sister Empress. Bless you. And then we can't forget Sly Boots. You see, him bring roots and culture to Western New York. If we could have some representatives or the whole posse up here, that would be beautiful. Put your hands together for the Sly Boots crew. And know this for sure, they got a festival going on this year, and it's going to be at the Blue Heron site. But I think the Blue Heron is first. That's on the 30th, right? Definitely going to be here. PFC in the house. It's good to see Damone, a Miracle Jackson up in here. Blessed love. Sly Boots in the house. There he is. Griff, put your hands together for Griff and Brady. You don't want no freedom talk? Well, I can talk without the microphone. Enough love to Eric. Enough respect. Guys. My sister Blaze in the house. We ready? We got crew up here? Well, you know what we got to do? Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the mother sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the mother sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off. Yo, Seamus, you about to be mad because we gonna tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the mother sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. We got a real type of thing going down. There's a whole lot of rhythm going around. We got a real type of thing going down.
rhythm going round.
Back to front, side to side.
We want the funk. Gotta have that funk. 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 Gotta have that funk.
Anybody down with the la-las? Yeah! La-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Wait a minute, wait a minute. That's going out to all them haters. You get the doo-doo face. What? Break this down. Here's our chance to dance away out of our addiction. Gonna be grooving up and down, hang about the ways, yeah. With the groove our only guide, we shall all be moved. Feet don't fail me now. Come on, girl. Feet don't fail me now. Ready or not, yeah. Doing what? One nation under my groove. Get down. One nation. We're on the move. Nothing can stop us now. Feet don't fail me now. Listen, I want the whole funk. The whole funk. Nothing but the funk. Can I say it again, y'all? We want the funk, the whole funk. Nothing but the funk. Can you say it again now? We want the funk, the whole funk. Nothing but the funk. To the people, come on. We want the funk, the whole funk. Nothing but the funk. I think they got it. Break it down. Let's tell the world. We want the funk, the whole funk. Nothing but the funk. Yeah! Can we say it again? Funk. Yeah. Nothing but the funk. Listen. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the mother sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off. Why is it still here? Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Tear the roof off the sucker. Ain't dancing hard enough. Tear the roof off the sucker. 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 We got a real life of thing going down and down. There's a whole lot of rhythm going round. We got a real life of thing going down and down. There's a whole lot of rhythm going round. Back to front, side to side. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. Oh, we want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We want the funk. Yeah. We gotta have that funk. We want the funk.
cook that chicken.
Put your hands up for Empress Amina and the Royal. Hey, wait a minute. Take it to the bridge. I'm tired of Babylon. We got to keep on straight. Listen. Here I go. Lyrics melt like the hot burning sun. Hurry, cause the brother's on the run. Letting off the vibe of the positivity. Represent the power given to me by me almighty. Bring it track, music make me go. But a hip-hop rhythm, flip a nasty flow. Preacher keep it real cause I represent the East. Knowledge is the key when I battle with the beast. On the physical plane stands more like a giant. Fight like shouting this and growling at him. Grown in a city that's controlled by the mob. Rich man ain't got no job. Here in homicide, Pennsylvania, USA. Both dealing judges and the cops don't play. What more does a rubber man have to say? Hey, take it to the bridge. I know. Just keep on. James Brown. Hey, make it funky. Make it fun. 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 Listen. Get up. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a second machine. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Everybody get up. Get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a second machine. Get on up. Wave your arm. Use your arm. Stay on the scene. Like a love machine. Wave your arm. Use your form. Stay on the scene. Like a second machine. Get up. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a second machine. Get on up. Get up. Get on up. Will everybody get up? Get on up. Stay on the scene. Get on up. Like a love machine. Get on up. The way I like it. The way I like it. The way it is. The way it is. I got mine. I got mine. So worry about his. Don't worry about his. The way I like it. The way I like it. The way it is. The way it is. I got mine, nigga. I got mine. So worry about him. Don't worry about him. Get up. Get on up. 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 Get on up. Get on up. Get on up. I want y'all to hit me. I ain't playing. Don't miss me. Bam. I want y'all to hit me. I ain't playing. Don't miss me. One time. Bring that funky, get it. What, ready? Good God. Like a dull knife, Jack, it just ain't cutting. Talking loud, saying nothing. Just saying nothing. They're saying nothing. Just saying nothing. Just say, wait a minute, shape up your bag. Don't worry about mine. My thing's together, and I'm doing fine. Good luck to you over there, Mr. Loud and Wrong. Why you keep jiving, singing that same old funny song like a dumb night jack? Just ain't talking loud, saying nothing, just saying nothing, just saying nothing. Just saying nothing, just saying nothing. You, and you, and you, do your thing. Wait a minute. What? Need some focus, so. Wait a minute. I need some. Break it down. Funky. Good God. Funky. Need that focus, so give me the funk. Don't have to be beautiful to take me out. What it's all about. We are one world tribe, and you are one world tribe, and that's the human family. Can you dig it? 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 Say yeah! Say yeah! Say oh yeah! Say oh yeah! Say yeah! Say yeah! Say oh yeah! Say oh yeah! 25 to stay alive, cause the life you save might be your own. It's good to see you, brother. Look at One World Tribe. The youth are coming up before your eyes. The youth are coming up before your eyes. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world, the world is yours. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world, the world. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world, hey, young world. Give me the bass and drum. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world. Young. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world. Hey, young world, the world is yours. Young world. If you down with one love, let me see you do this. If you down with one love, put your finger in the air. Yeah. One love. One love. One love. One love. One love. One love. Go back to that get up key. Get up. That's it. Get up. Get on up. 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 Shake that money, baby. Shake that money. need help, give it to me. Yeah. I can't do it alone. Give it to me. No man help. I need help, give it to me. Hey. When the rain is fall, give it to me. Oh. How can I feel it when you're doing it wrong? Oh. I need to feel it. I need to feel it. I need to feel it. I got to feel it. I need to feel it. Don't you feel it? I got to feel it. I got to feel it. 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 Got to feel it.
Oh my goodness, One World Tribe!
Oh, what a flashback. One World Tribe live at Larkin Square in 2017. That was the season opener, the last season where I was booking the music there. I thought it would be good music to bring the vibe for tonight with Cariol's Ride. Healing music, protest music, timeless music, music to give us a way forward and honor our roots. And as Mark noted, our producer Mark, who filmed that for Buffalo.fm and is still filming for us here, producing here, if we had that many people on stage right now, we'd be arrested. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it makes you miss it a little bit, no doubt, but hope that y'all felt good listening and watching that as good as I did. Thanks, Preach Freedom and the One World Tribe Gang for bringing that music. Want to bring it back to where we were tonight for Cariol in closing. Thanks again for everyone, to everyone in the present and future watching as we bring light to the story of Cariol Horne. If you're just tuning in, look back at this ride that we did to show where she grew up, from the point that she got her first bike over on Madison to the C District station where she worked as a police officer, to the house on Walden where she intervened in the excessive force, the choking of an unarmed, already handcuffed Neal Mack. Maybe saved his life, maybe prevented him from the fate of George Floyd. And she was fired for it. And she had her pension taken away. This was 14 years ago. We know that the problems that are being discussed on this national level exist in our community. In fact, just in the time that we've been live tonight, another Buffalo police officer has been suspended without pay for being caught on video acting improperly toward an innocent bystander. That's where we're at now. So anyone who wants to sit back and just think, oh, it's just a couple bad apples and it's no big deal, and sit back and hope for change. No, there's a reason people are in the streets, risking their lives in a pandemic. We have serious problems and we are not going to solve. Slow Roll's not going to solve them. We said that when we first brought Cariol on in 2017, and it made people uncomfortable when she told her story at a ride. And she said, will y'all chant along with me? Love, not hate, makes America great. And people said, don't be political. Give me a break. We are here to bring people together, share the story of our city, and that story changes wherever we go, whichever neighborhood we go to. And at certain times, it changes when what's going on nationally. We had Cariol on in light. Cariol first come and talk to us, talk to the ride after Charlottesville. We knew she had a message to bring what was going on there to relevance here in Buffalo. And it made people uncomfortable. Good. A lot of people have been living comfortably with the privilege of not having to deal with the scenes that Cariol witnessed, grew up with, intervened on, and got fired for. Cariolslaw.com. Slow Roll is one of 64 organizations who have signed on in support of passing Cariol's law and restoring her pension with back pay. Personally, what you can do is sign those petitions at cariolslaw.com. You can call Mayor Brown, you can call your councilman, and just speak up, right? We don't have all the solutions ourselves, but we need to engage. We need to connect. And one way that we can connect communities is by showing people how we can make change, showing people what's going on and how they can get involved. Cariolslaw.com. Tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. at police headquarters downtown, Cariol is holding a press conference. We will be there. WNYmedia.net, our producer here, Mark, who also, he covers news and he covers music with Buffalo.fm. WNYmedia.net will be there live on their website, streaming on Facebook if you can't make it. You have plenty of reasons not to make it. We have plenty of reasons not to be having our big group rides right now. We're going to keep it virtual for now. We'll have more to come, especially in the month of July. I want to thank our squad for sticking together, coming out on these rides and masking up and supporting in so many ways the other initiatives that we've been involved with over the past couple months. I want to thank Independent Health, our presenting partner since 2015, for keeping the wheels turning, especially now that we are having to adjust to this moment. We're holding space and sending love to everyone who's suffering from this pandemic ongoing. It is still relevant in our community. The numbers may be down, but we are still in a pandemic. Please, y'all, be careful. Look out for each other. Cover your face in solidarity with those around you. And keep in touch. slowrollbuffalo@gmail.com. If you want to do anything with us, if you have any feedback for anything we're doing, want to get involved. Next week, next Monday, July 6th, would be our third annual Freedom Wall ride, meeting at the Freedom Wall at the corner of East Ferry and Michigan, and celebrating that public art with 28 civil rights leaders locally and nationally. And we will share those stories next Monday, and we will connect them. We will trace the tracks of the Underground Railroad through Buffalo from the Michigan African American Heritage Corridor over to the foot of Ferry, where the Freedom Wall is right in the middle of that trail. So we'll help tell that story. We'll have some guests on to illuminate it. Normally we have more guests. We just wanted to make it about Cariol tonight. We're so grateful for her presence. We're grateful for your presence in the present and the future. Please keep in touch. Peace.